Hi, I'm Steve. This is Fran. Today, we're going to rank two affordable luxury categories, LG Studio versus GE's Cafe unit. GE's Cafe line, sorry.
Yeah, so good kind of comparison there between these, and they definitely, these guys compete a lot in a lot of different kind of product categories. So we'll break it down a little bit, and kind of before we really get into specific categories, let's look holistically first, and let's talk about service.
Good word. Yeah, first of all, service is a problem in this industry. A lot of dealers will say everyone's got good factory service. That's not the case. We always tell people to look at reviews for service in your area. Give you an idea, we did over 37,000 service calls, and we're just Boston. We don't go anywhere else. And that's up 10% over last year with a 9% less delivered sales. So it's a problem, especially as manufacturers go through their supply chain issues. I think you're going to find more service in the next couple of years. And for this, you have to give an edge to GE with a little asterisk, because you never know until you check reviews, but GE at least has their own factory service. LG's made some strides. They're certainly better than Samsung, which isn't saying probably much, but real popular. They've made some investment in service, but they're nowhere near where GE is. So for the service angle, if you're buying from a store without service, which you probably will be, then I would say you definitely go with GE.
Yeah, and like we always say, always ask those questions where you're buying, who's servicing, and we always try to pound, buy from someone that services what they sell. We know that's not always an option, so it sounds like,
but at least, if there's good local places, it's still the same thing.
So right. GE on that one.
So GE on that one. So let's go into colors and style, because that's the reason why you're buying Cafe. I think Cafe's done a nice job with colors, basics like white and black. White's back in. We show it here in polished brass. And then you get black. Black's pretty good with copper, actually. And they get stainless, and you can put a different handle on, like a black or something. So you have a way to customize. They're adding green, I think, and gray this year, perhaps, or in a limited way. Whereas LG, I don't think, they finally came out with white, which is probably going to be their best seller. But what was it? What was that? Have you seen their decorative hardware? It's like pink, or it's some kind of off brass type of thing. They were telling me about it, and I'm like, just make it brass, or distressed brass. So, from a color standpoint, I would say Cafe.
Yeah,
which is the reason why you're buying Cafe.
Yeah, pretty easily. I do, the Studio, I think, as far as the stainless steel and traditional look, I think it's a really nice looking.
They do a nice job.
Brand for sure, but as far as flexibility and really making the Cafe kind of what you want, no question, Cafe has way more flexibility there.
Now, cooking is an interesting category, right?
We're going to break it down a little bit, because we're going to talk about, so first let's talk about just ranges. So first, freestanding ranges, and then we'll kind of look into some other types of built-in cooking. But freestanding, really 30-inch ranges here, kind of for more of a comparison. Cafe definitely gives you a little bit more. You can get a 36, but looking at kind of your freestanding front control 30-inch ranges here.
Yeah, well, Cafe's really, they have two ranges. They have that, but they're really known for that double oven.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. Now, if you cook with casseroles and smaller things, use that smaller oven, you're never bending. If you cook bigger things, right, you got to pick that turkey up from almost the floor, because it doesn't have a storage drawer or warming drawer at the bottom. So you get a lot of good cubic footage because you have no drawer. But it depends on how you cook. Then they have their single oven as well. Cafe is really interesting in gas because it's got 6 burners. And you think, well, who would ever use 6 burners? But what they did that was really smart was that griddle has got 2 9,500 BTU burners. So it's a 19,000 BTU griddle. And you can, griddles are so underrated. You can cook anything on a griddle. So that's a really nice piece. But against that is the biggest oven size you can buy. That's LG's 6.3. Now, KitchenAid's got a slightly bigger because they have that baking drawer below. But for pure ovens, 6.3 is as big as it gets.
Absolutely.
So, and they've got the 20,000 BTU burners in the front. So you really don't need to get a pro range with the LG. with the Studio.
Yeah, they do that kind of the different probate convection
Yeah.
as well, where their convection system is a little bit different than really everything else that you're going to find out
Because they
there.
put the element below, they put the element behind the fan, so it blows across versus, just blowing the heat from an element below. So it's technically better. And they both have very good induction too.
Yeah, this is a close one.
I don't know. I think this is really depends on how you cook. I would say that in this case, I'd almost give an edge to Café.
I think they have more options, more flexibility there. I think they're both great, but I think we'll go Café on this one. So next, let's talk about built-in cooking. So kind of wall ovens, cooktops, that sort of thing.
Well, again, Cafés get that unique French door, right? Where you open up this way, so you have real access to your food, right? So if you want, and that's the way they do it in restaurants, where they don't have a lot of room and they got a lot of people sliding back and forth. So that's where the French door comes in. And so if you got an island and you got multiple people cooking, it's a nice idea. However, that LG Studio, they give you a lot for your money. I mean, it's 9.4 cubic foot ovens.
Yep.
With the double, and it's under $3,000, is it? Or
correct, depending on promos and things like that. And then they have then they have the combination oven as well with the speed oven, that combo, which Café does, but really tough to beat the value of the LG Studio.
And I heard even their steam oven works. I haven't tested it, and their steam is a lot cheaper than the ones that typically get reviewed, like Miele, Gaggenau, and Wolf. Like their steam oven's like half the price. And
yeah,
still works.
least, yeah.
And steam, if you're looking for steam, speed, microwave, I'm a believer in steam. I have one in my house, and I want to learn how to use it more in terms of cooking. But in terms of reheating things, steam is way better than microwave. Yeah, it's 10 minutes versus 2, but what you get out of it is more flavorful. So I would say, although they're very different, I think from a value standpoint, I almost give it to the Studio.
Yeah, I'd agree there for sure.
And I think it's cheaper too.
Yeah, it's tough to beat Studio when it comes down to the value of what they give you in their built-in. And then as far as control panel, really nice, large LCD control panel. Café gives you something similar
gives you
as well.
7-inch colored, that's a nice control panel too.
All right, so we'll lean Studio on this one. And then now let's move to cooling. Let's talk about refrigeration.
Well, it really depends what kind of refrigerator you want, what options you want. Personally, I think one of the best products introduced in a long time is the Counter Max.
Yeah.
Where you can get, you don't have to buy it in the LG Studio line, but you now have 6 different Counter Maxes where you can buy a counter depth refrigerator that's 26.5 cubic feet. When I started, it was 19.9. And actually the average is like 23, I believe, or 22, 23. Bosch is 20. Beco's 19. So you're getting a much bigger fridge, still with a counter depth. Of course, the door protrudes a little bit more, about another inch. I mean, the door, not the chassis, is still counter depth. I really like that fridge, and it's inexpensive. You can buy it on promo for $17.99. With Café, you're talking about more options. You're talking about the Keurig. You're talking about the Turbo Cool, Turbo Freeze, where you can just put something in the drawer and have it thawed or frozen.
Yeah, you can get like a hot water dispenser in some of those.
You get a hot water, you get the Keurig coffee maker. It's 2 compressor. Now on the Counter Max, it's 1 compressor, 1 evaporator. On the Cafés and on the rest of the LGs, it's 1 compressor, 2 evaporators. So it holds temperature better, although they have, LG's got different things like the Door Cooling Plus, where you open it up and there's, a vent that goes down. I think from a price standpoint, you're looking at a $2,000 fridge versus a $4,000 fridge. It depends what kind of options you want. But here, I'd almost give it to LG again.
I think they make really nice refrigeration, and kind of like we talked about with cooking, a little slimmed down product category. They really have a couple refrigerators on counter depth in that Studio line, one with the InstaView, one without, and the external dispenser there. But I just think from a price perspective, the really nice features, the craft ice, the stainless interior, I think with LG, it's a really good
it's only
value.
the stainless in the back, though.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is you put the milk against the stainless because it absorbs cold better, and then
Yeah.
your milk gets colder faster. So.
Okay, so let's go Studio here. And then last category, we're going to talk about dishwashers.
Well, our very own Shannon Stoner tested all of these. And, the one thing is I do think the steam works. They've got that, LG's got that steam generator. My next door neighbor had one. And I baked a pot of macaroni and I really baked that in, and steam did well. I mean, you still had to wipe it down afterwards. Cafe and Profile, I think the Cafes are more expensive. Profile, they have the bottle nozzles for your sports drinks, but here's a clue: you don't need them because all the dishwashers wash them. They get the silverware basket with the special wash. You don't need that either, as it turns out, because it cleans and it's got the third rack.
Yeah.
They're both good dishwashers. I think really one of the things we haven't talked about is reliability, and the LG dishwasher is the most reliable, even more than Bosch or Miele. So I would give this one to Studio. Although I would say for both dishwashers, you don't need to go with Studio or Cafe. You can buy the lesser expensive versions in LG and Profile.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying colors in Cafe.
Yeah, matching them.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you say you've kind of debunked in a recent blog a lot of the some of the other features that you've had in those Cafe, a lot of them. But yeah, no, I agree. I think they're close here as well. Studio probably the better overall value for sure. So I think.
But it's close. I mean,
they're close.
I'd give it LG. So it's a pretty even.
Yeah.
It's a pretty even match depending on what you're looking for. I mean, even if you like the French door valve, and then you would go to Cafe. If you want colors, you go to Cafe.
Exactly.
If you need more service, you go to Cafe. If you want more features in your fridge, certain features, then you would go with Cafe. So it really depends on what you're looking for. This is just from a very high altitude comparison.
Yep.
So
okay.
Anyway, if you like these videos, we'll be doing more rankings. So click the subscribe button, and thanks for watching.